From Henry Cavill's mustache of nightmares to Lion King's emotionless animal kingdom, let's talk about some of the biggest movies whose CGI literally ruined the entire thing for fans. Like when they totally botched Superman's face in Justice League. Now look, I get it. The dude had a mustache that needed hiding. But do you really mean to tell me that after years of tech advancements, this is what they produced? I refuse to believe that there was no other way to hide Henry's mustache other than making him look like a cheap look-alike of himself. Honestly guys, just look at his face in this throwback scene. And then when he faces off with the Justice League. The whole thing just put off the entire movie for me. Which is saying something, because the film itself was pretty comical too. Cause I know Zack Snyder had to leave the film halfway. But did they have to go and change the entire thing after that? Nope. Just nope. But hey, at least it was a little better than Suicide Squad. The original one, I mean. Because that film bombed in a way that no one was expecting. You have to admit, the story had potential, and the characters were fun too. Plus, they had an ensemble cast most movies dream of. Margot Robbie, Will Smith, Cara Delevingne. Those are all A-list actors who could have made the film so much fun. But it's CGI. Well, I'd especially like to point out one scene from the film, the final Enchantress dance. Y'all remember when she came to full power and became all mystical looking, right? Well, rewatch that scene here and tell me this doesn't look like a joke to you. Her movements look super robotic, and the special effects around her don't do justice to the scene at all. It's as if the whole scene was made in a rush. Honestly, I just feel like Suicide Squad's makers forgot that CGI is supposed to enhance the story, not detract from it. Cause here, the entire premise of the character and the significance of this moment is ruined by the effects around her. Cara Delevingne really deserved better, and so did Deadpool, or actually Ryan Reynolds in X-Men Origins. Now that movie gave us a version of Deadpool that was so bad, Reynolds had to create a whole new trilogy just to make up for it. The scene I'm talking about is the one where Deadpool enters the fight, but instead of the wisecracking fourth wall breaking anti-hero we know, we got this abomination. The CGI in this scene was so bad that I really felt bad watching it. First, Deadpool's mouth is sewn shut, even though I think one of his superpowers is how snappy he can be. Then there's the character's entire look that looks like a cross between a zombie and a transformer. So like absolutely no charm, no charisma, and no memorability whatsoever. No wonder the guy had to go to lengths to make his own version of Deadpool, so he could make fun of the scene from the X-Men movies. This and Justice League are two movies that prove when Hollywood gets it wrong. It takes a fan, or a petition from fans to make things right. Although I'm not sure when they'll get to give Green Lantern the same justice. Because boy, oh boy, that movie was cringe pro max. The overuse of CGI and the mediocre storytelling have made it the worst superhero film of all time. Especially that one scene with Hal Jordan putting on his costume for the first time. Now, in the comics, the Green Lantern costume is supposed to be made out of energy. This means that it can take any shape or form the wearer wants. But looks like the makers of the film forgot that. Or the costume and effects department had an argument. Cause just look at the final visuals. It just looks like the worst CGI suit of all time, badly superimposed on Reynolds' body. I feel like the creators thought, hey, let's make the scene look as bad as possible. Cause I can't imagine anyone greenlighting this particular scene with any other thought. And it's such a shame, because Green Lantern is such an interesting character, but he never gets due credit in films. I hope Gunn and Safran focus on him in the future, cause I bet there are a lot more meta jokes Deadpool can pull at this film's expense. And while we're on the topic of jokes, do you remember all the memes people made on the one and only Jar Jar Binks? I don't blame them. The Star Wars prequel trilogy was a bit of a doozy. Now I'm not saying the films were bad, okay guys? Don't cancel me because of that yet. But you have to admit that George Lucas really went a bit too far with the CGI here. I mean, come on, we all know that special effects can be a powerful tool when used correctly. And there are plenty of Star Wars examples to prove that. But that wasn't the case in the prequel trilogy. These movies literally looked like they were filmed on a soundstage sometimes, representing a badly rendered video game, instead of a galaxy far, far away. And I did mention Jar Jar Binks, right? Don't tell me you were sold on the way he was represented, So the less we say about them, the better. All I'll say is that at least the film gave us some epic lightsaber battles. But is that enough to save face? It's like asking for a miracle in the face of an apocalypse, or a full-blown vampire battle like in Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2. Actually no, I'll talk about the whole Twilight saga here, because the entire thing deserves a mention in this list. Now, where do I even start? It's not like I've forgotten the teenage frenzy of vampire romances and white-faced dodos whom everyone was going crazy over. But in all that craziness, what no one really noticed was the bad CGI in all the movies. Let's start with the infamous baseball scene from the first one, shall we? This one's apparently supposed to be an epic scene with super-powered vampires playing a very confusing game of super speed baseball. But the effects in this scene were so bad, they've become TikTok trends now. The Cullens moved as if they were made of rubber, and the whole sepia-type tinge in the scene made it feel like a low-budget, badly edited vampire art film. Let's also not forget the battle in Breaking Dawn Part 2. You know, where Bella, Edward, and everyone else fight against the Volturi. Be honest with me, didn't you feel like all these were cosplayers running around with fake weapons? It's as if the reception from the movies and Robert Pattinson's hate against the films were so bad, the creators didn't even try making the final scene look realistic. I guess they had realized how bad the story was. Y'all remember Jacob falling for a literal baby, right? And don't even get me started on that baby who was literally the stuff of nightmares. Ugh, never mind. I'll just move on to my final pick of the day, The Lion King's live-action version. Now look guys, I don't have anything against live-action remakes. I think they're pretty cool. And in this particular case, I even shed a hidden tear or two when I saw the trailer. But the movie was a totally different deal. For one, it tried to be too realistic for its own good, which was great when it comes to character design, but also sucked, because as good as these animals looked, they had no personality whatsoever. Everything looked robotic. There were no expressions on their faces, and it honestly couldn't match the legendary vision of the original Lion King at all. That film was a masterpiece of animation, with each character having their own unique personality and quirks. This one just fell flat, making it a missed opportunity that had potential, but the CGI did not come through. Anyway, those were some movies that were ruined by CGI. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.